Okay, we'll start with this per a tweet from Steve Kim. Errol Spence, on All the Smoke podcast with Stephen Jackson and Matt Barnes. I can't spar yet because I got my teeth knocked out, and they put 3 posts in my mouth. Once they heal, I get my permanent teeth, and then I'll be able to spar. And this is quite a revealing comment from Errol Spence, because that would then have to mean that he's not clear to fight, and he hasn't been cleared to fight since the accident. That if the guy hasn't been cleared to spar, how could he have been cleared to fight? In which case,
I don't understand.
well, you gotta think about it. Immediately after the accident, there were reports surfacing that, Errol, he didn't suffer any life-altering injuries. He didn't suffer any injuries that would hamper his career moving forward. But in spite of these reports, there were rumors that, Errol isn't exactly in tip-top shape. That even though he may have walked away from the accident miraculously, without any life-altering injuries, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's okay to fight moving forward. As you can imagine, the usual suspects rushed to Errol Spence's defense as if he needed defending, But this is what they did. They rushed to his defense saying, there's nothing wrong with the guy, what are you talking about? They didn't like that some of these rumors were being stirred up by Bob Arum based on rumors that he had heard.
About Errol.
So they immediately dismissed them, they immediately denied them, in all the ways that they immediately dismissed the idea that Errol Spence was under the influence when he was behind the wheel and flipped that Ferrari. And these comments, like those comments, they didn't age well, because as it turns out, Errol Spence was under the influence, and as it turns out, at least based on what Errol Spence just said,
Unclear to fight.
he wasn't okay to fight. He still isn't okay to fight. He hasn't been cleared to spar. So how could he have been cleared to fight? It's just one of those things, to where there's no accountability. I mean, where did all these individuals go? The ones that were saying that Errol's in tip-top shape and he's okay to fight and nothing's wrong with him.
I said it.
In their usual fashion, they have since evaporated into thin air once accountability comes into it. That these guys, girls, they can never stand on their square. They can never stand by their word. As soon as they're proven wrong, they do a disappearing act.
Yeah.
But based on these comments, that would then have to mean that from the moment Errol Spence was in that accident, up until now, moving forward, this guy hasn't been cleared to fight.
At all.
So what the fuck were you talking about?
I'm telling you.
Are you trying to provide assurances as far as the state of this man when you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about? Now, this doesn't just lend insight into the past, but it also lends insight into the future. That perhaps Errol Spence will be back in action sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
But who against is the question. Perhaps given the state of Errol Spence, everything that's not being said, but what information is being slowly released to the boxing community at large, maybe he doesn't fight a top 10 guy in a Danny Garcia. I've seen a prevalent rumor that he might fight someone else. Not a Terrence Crawford, not a Danny Garcia, but some guy named Maurice Lee, a southpaw in the welterweight division. I don't know how much truth there is in this rumor, but this is a name that I've seen loosely thrown around as a possibility for Errol Spence's next opponent.
Okay.
If that's the case, I sincerely doubt that the next time we see Errol Spence, it'll be on a pay-per-view, as a guy like Maurice Lee, an unheralded guy like Maurice Lee, that's not going to get you a lot of buys. So that could be a fight that if they make it, they give it away for free, as an effort to get Errol back in the swing of things safely, without putting him in a situation to where it's too much, too soon for a guy coming from what he's coming from. I will reiterate, that is just a rumor, that is just a name that I've seen thrown around.
Perhaps you've seen it too.
If that rumor were to materialize, and that rumor resulted in an actual fight between the likes of an Errol Spence and a Maurice Lee of all people, given the stable of fighters Errol Spence has access to on the PBC side of things, that would allow us to make certain inferences as to what's really going on here. But I will reiterate that that's just a rumor. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that until something tangible in reference to that rumor surfaces. And just in keeping with the theme of news revolving around Errol Spence, he was quoted as saying, 100% focused in my prime, I would have beat Mayweather.
What?
Yeah, that's right. He's talking about Floyd Money Mayweather.
Spence was asked about boxing Mayweather by former NBA player Matt Barnes as part of Showtime's All the Smoke podcast, which Barnes co-hosts with another retired NBA player, Stephen Jackson.
Spence was quoted as saying, 100% focused in my prime, I think I would beat Floyd. Floyd is very mentally tough. He's very mentally tough, you know. I would cut him off. I would use my jab a lot. A lot of people, like even the Oscar De La Hoya fight, Oscar De La Hoya should have used his jab more. I would use my jab. I would throw combinations. I would work the body and then work the head. Because a lot of people, they go to the head and then work the body. But if you go for the head and then you can't hit him in the head, and then you know you can't hit him in the head.
Yeah.
So I would work the body, then work the head, and then just try to break him down physically because I know he's not breaking down mentally. He's just like one of those tough fighters, just like Sean Porter. You're not going to break him down mentally. You can break him down physically, but mentally he's always going to be there. So I would just try to break him down physically. Now this entire scenario seemed a little bit bizarre to me because I don't actually think Errol Spence has done enough in his career to where he needs to be volunteered for fantasy fights. I mean, really?
Already.
In a prime for prime discussion, prime, what, we're gonna start talking about when Errol was in his prime? Why, is he not in his prime anymore? Have we seen the best of him already? Is that it? And then you think about Floyd's end of it, that, you know, if we're talking about a prime for prime discussion, it's questionable as to whether or not Floyd Mayweather was in his prime back when he was in the welterweight division. I'm assuming that this is the Mayweather that they're talking about, the Mayweather that campaigned at 147 pounds. That Mayweather,
The welterweight.
wasn't exactly prime Mayweather. That was a Mayweather whose output had significantly decreased
He wasn't throwing as much at 147.
as a result of the degradation in his hands. He had to adopt a new base style, and he was no less effective, no less formidable with that base style. But rest assured, he had to adopt one
Over time.
as a result of the degradation in his hands. You know, he wasn't quite the puncher at 147 that he was at the lighter weights. His output had decreased, so it's questionable as to whether or not that even was a prime Floyd Mayweather at 147, and I think that's the Mayweather that they're talking about.
He'd embarrassed Errol.
Errol can't touch that guy.
If I'm gonna be honest, I don't see anything in Errol Spence that Floyd wouldn't have been able to deal with. I mean, yeah, he's a big kid, decent-sized puncher. He's a southpaw, and that's all well and good. That's nice. That's very good for this era of boxers.
Good stuff.
But all things considered, given the quality of competition that Floyd Mayweather had already faced by the time he got to the welterweight division and his body of work there,
Really break through that defense.
But seeing the position that Toto holds his head, he's throwing the shot around the side.
I'm fairly confident that Floyd Mayweather would have boxed circles around Errol Spence. And I know what you're gonna tell me. I know what you're gonna bring me. You're gonna bring me the infamous Jim story.
Here we go.
Do you know how many fucking Jim stories there are out there? Do you know how many things happen in sparring that the prying eyes of the boxing community don't know about? There's a difference between working on things in a closed gym setting and having to perform under the hot lights. And you'll excuse me for saying so, but today's Errol Spence knows nothing about performing under the hot lights quite the way that Floyd Mayweather Jr. did.
We lay her for this fight. Jesse Ravelo was an Olympic coach. Down goes Beja on a right hand over the top.
Some of the biggest moments in the sport of boxing, you understand, are moments where Floyd Mayweather continuously performed, and not just performed, but performed in dominant fashion against a wide array of different base styles, different fighters with different physical dimensions that have different methodologies. I mean, it's not even a question to me as to whether or not Floyd would have beat this guy. He would have run
Him ragged.
circles around this guy. He would have run rings around this guy. It's not even a question, you know. I saw arguably the best version of Errol Spence I've ever seen. What was that, against Kell Brook? I mean, I can't use the Sean Porter fight. As formidable as Sean is, he's no insight into a Mayweather fight because Sean doesn't have the dimensions of a Floyd Mayweather, and he certainly doesn't have the implementation of a Floyd Mayweather. Sean is a pressure guy, at least he was in that Errol Spence fight, and Floyd's not a pressure guy, okay? Floyd's two base styles are... You know, he can be a boxer-puncher, and when he needs to, he can slow a fight down by being a pure boxer. But one thing Floyd ain't, is a pressure guy. He's not that. So the Porter fight really is no insight. The Brook fight, comparatively, would be a better insight as Brook, he's a boxer puncher. Good jab on Brook. And that's the interesting part of all this, that arguably the best version of Errol Spence I've ever seen is a version of Spence that was getting touched by an orthodox jab.
Okay.
Where Errol Spence, being the southpaw, is intended to have an advantage over that orthodox fighter because he's leading with his right, whereas the orthodox fighter is leading with his left. And because the southpaw is leading with his right, that southpaw jab should be coming over the top of that orthodox fighter's jab. Yet, time and time again throughout their fight, Kell Brook was getting off that left hand, and it was touching Errol. That's revealing. That Floyd Mayweather, he was an orthodox fighter. I dare say with a far better jab and far better timing, nuances, subtleties than the likes of a Kell Brook. If Kell Brook can touch you with his left hand, if he can touch you with it, it's a safe bet that, Floyd Mayweather could do a lot more than that.
See that elbow comes forward, he catches a lot on that elbow.
Elbow out. There's the good right hand again.
Another right hand.
In round one, we sometimes see his fights. There's a right hand by Mayweather that tags Maidana.
Mayweather now getting into rhythm, changing the looks.
As Floyd Mayweather had more going on for him than just that. We know that, Kell's trademark was the straight 1-2, very effective. Well, Floyd had so many tools, it's hard to say, what his trademark was. He was good at a lot of things, good with a lot of shots. Check hooks, pull counters.
Stabs to the body.
I remember in the Cotto fight, late into the Cotto fight, he actually walked Cotto into an uppercut, and it frazzled Cotto. There was always a lot of contentions as far as Floyd Mayweather's power. How big a puncher he was, because he wasn't necessarily a knockout guy. Most of those fights, they went to the cards. And, I saw that. I saw him walk Cotto into that uppercut. Cotto, who's always been a very durable fighter, takes a great punch. Great chin on that guy. Great left hook on that guy. Strong puncher, that guy, all right? Floyd walked him into an uppercut, and Cotto got frazzled. Had to dive into a clinch to maintain his footing. Floyd was good with a lot of shots. Against Errol, who'd be looking to use his jab as a key to get within range of Floyd. Get within range so that he can get off those body shots. What I could see happening is that jab might get disrupted by Floyd's pull counter. But as Errol's pumping out that right hand to get within proximity of Floyd, Floyd will just veer off to the left a bit and walk Errol into that straight right hand. And straight right hands, as we all know, are the southpaw killers. Do I think Floyd would have knocked out Errol with this shot? No, but I think he would have got his respect. Enough respect to where Errol's going to have to simmer down a bit, because every time I try to get within range of this guy, I'm getting hit with a shot that I don't see coming. This is a part of the way that Floyd Mayweather was able to slow a lot of fights down. A lot of guys who wanted to go in there and rough him up, they'd end up getting hit with shots that they didn't see coming. And because they don't see the shots coming, there's that much more mustard on them. It's like walking into a dark room and getting punched in the face as soon as you step in the door. He's checking you at the door. It's the kind of thing to where, after a couple of rounds of that, the other guy, he starts hesitating. He's unsure of himself. He can't even commit to his shots. He doesn't know what to do with this guy, because whenever he tries to close the gap, he's getting hit with shots that he doesn't see. Takes a fighter out of his comfort zone. Floyd was good deep in the pocket and outside of the pocket. Side of the pocket's where he would fire that stab to the body to take the wind out of a guy from a safe distance. And Floyd wasn't just good in the pocket. This is a guy who had a good set of legs. At a time when people are seeing that Floyd, he's trying to get back in shape for some reason, rumors of a comeback, a possible comeback, the same kind of rumors we've been seeing for fucking years.
Right.
A question like this does deserve some attention, I guess. I mean, we're all under self-quarantine, right? We ain't got nothing better to do.
Right.
But ultimately,
Mayweather Spence.
Preliminary thoughts, I would definitely have favored Floyd Mayweather to win this fight in a time machine by a wide margin. I don't even think that we've even seen enough from Errol Spence to where his name should be in this conversation. You guys remember what Floyd Mayweather did to Canelo Alvarez? That was a masterclass. Masterclass, unless we forget. You can all that Canelo was too young crap. Canelo Alvarez was a unified, undefeated junior middleweight champion with 40-plus professional fights. Too young, my fucking ass. It's just that Floyd Mayweather outclassed him. Now, to Canelo's credit, I do think that the Canelo that's here with us today is a more skilled, more experienced Canelo, more formidable, yes. But that doesn't take away from Floyd's victory back then, and Floyd outclassed that guy. I think he'd outclass Errol in similar fashion. That is, if you're going to entertain this question. Floyd Mayweather versus Errol Spence. Because Errol Spence has done so much that we need to start volunteering him for fantasy fights.
Give me a break.
So, you know, if you wanted my opinion on that, and you're here, so I'll assume that you do, I'd easily favor Floyd to win that fight by way of a unanimous decision. I don't think that I've seen enough from Errol Spence to where he should even be in this conversation, but because he is, that's my diagnosis here and now, based on what I've seen so far. And, you know, I can forgive Errol Spence answering the question the way that he did, because that's the kind of answer you expect from a young fighter who's supposed to be in his prime, a young champion, you know? That's the best way to answer the question. You believe in yourself, you have to. When no one else does, you should. So, Errol answered the question in a rather predictable fashion, and while I don't agree with him, I don't fault him for it either, you know? But I don't think for a second, based on what I've seen so far, I don't think for a second Errol Spence would have won that fight. And until he shows me more, until he proves otherwise by what he goes on to do in his career, I really would heavily favor Floyd Mayweather Jr. to beat that guy. I mean, easy answer. Floyd fucking Mayweather. You don't bet against Floyd fucking Mayweather.